Hello, welcome to Programming. In today's lecture, we will gonna learn about constructor injection in Spring. Okay, prior to this lecture, we have learned what dependency injection is. Okay, and in this lecture, we will gonna learn about one of the most commonly used dependency injection, that is called constructor injection. Okay, there are two most commonly used dependency injection. We have constructor injection and setter injection, and this video will cover the whole idea behind this constructor injection. Okay, so constructor injection, what does it actually mean? So when we have learned about this dependency injection, then we got a one-liner summary, that is, initializing the dependency is called dependency injection. Okay, but now what are the modes, like how we can initialize those dependencies, what are the ways through which we can initialize those? So now we are saying that initializing the dependencies using constructor is called constructor injection. Okay, so now what we are saying, that we will initialize dependency, but that will be using the constructor. Okay, then it's called constructor injection. Got it? Now we will go to the next slide, where we will understand what dependency is actually. So I have shown this similar diagram into the previous lecture when we were understanding dependency injection, where what I said, like prior to this we had this different engineer, which was like all of these engineers were configurable using this config file, and then that object has been that then that object will be provided by this Spring container to our app. Okay, where we will request for the object. But now the addition was the dependencies. So inside this engineer, we can have one or more than one dependency. Okay, so there can be many dependency inside this engineer. So that is what has been shown here. And let us go to the next slide, where we will discuss about what that actual dependency is. So this diagram will give us a particular example which we will gonna implement into the next lecture. Okay, where what I'm saying, that okay, we have this engineer, like civil engineer, software engineer, and every engineer is using this dependency quote service. Okay, and what quote service actually do, it gives you some quotes on daily basis, like motivational quotes or anything like that. So now our engineer classes, our engineer implementation classes have this dependency, okay, with them. So now what will happen, whenever this our application will request for an object to the Spring container, what it will do, it will look into this config file. Now let's assume that we are creating a bean of software engineer. So now this software engineer, now we also need to initialize its dependency, and we will use constructor for that. Okay, so that will be a high level like flow. So what it will do, this software engineer, like this dependency will get initialized, and then this whole object will get passed to this application. Okay, to the application, and then we can use it, we can use that whole object. So if uh, if we have to initialize a dependency, like if we have to do constructor injection, then there are certain steps we have to go through. Okay, so in total we have 3 steps. These are very simple to implement. So the first step is we have to create dependency interface and implementation class. Okay, so in our example, as we have gone through the example, so our dependency is quote service. Okay, so what we will do here, we will create a quote service interface. Inside this we can create method, whatever method declaration we want to give, and then there will be implementation class. Like the first implementation class is this motivational quote service. Okay, so this motivational quote service will implement this same interface, and there can be other quote service as well, other implementation class of quote service as well. Okay, but in our example we will take this one implementation class. So this is our first step. where we have to create dependency interface and its implementation class. Okay, and the second step is we have to go inside the software engineer. Okay, what we will gonna do, we have to create dependency and we also need to inject it. Okay, so for that, what we are doing here, inside the software engineer, we have to first give that dependency reference. Okay, so dependency reference is what? This quote service. So this quote service is actually our interface, our dependency interface. So what we have to write, private and then dependency interface and a reference of it, a reference for the dependency interface. So this is the first thing we have to do. And second thing is we have to create a parameterized constructor for this class. So we have this software engineer, so that's why we have created a constructor, and this is parameterized constructor. So it will take an argument, and that argument will be same as this dependency interface. Okay, so our dependency interface was what? Quote service. So that will be there as an argument. So whatever will get passed, that this object will get initialized with that thing. Okay, that object. So that is a kind of high level flow what will happen here. So are we clear with it? Like the second step, it's an easier step: create a dependency reference and create a parameterized constructor which will take an argument of type quote service and then initialize with the same. Got it? And the third step is our very important step, that is the configuration file. Okay, so we have to create bean and constructor dependency inside the configuration file. That is, we have to configure all these things inside this configuration file. All these things mean we have to create a bean of dependency and we have to refer the same as constructor argument. Okay, so let me make you understand what we are doing. So first we are creating a bean for this implementation class. Okay, implementation class of quote service, that is actually our dependency. So what we are doing, bean with id quotes, and it will kind of refer to the class, which implementation class? Motivational quote service. Okay, and now the second thing is our engineer bean. So our engineer bean is here with id engineer, and the class, the implementation class, is software engineer. But now if we go to the software engineer, we have a dependency as well. Okay, we have this dependency declared here and we have to initialize it using constructor. So that's why we have to configure it like that. So what we have to write inside configuration file, we have to write this. Okay, this will be constructor -arg. So what we are saying, that this is constructor argument and this is referring to this quotes, this bean id quote. Okay, so this quotes is actually having this implementation class motivational quote service. So now the software engineer's constructor argument will get initialized with what? This motivational quote service object. Okay, so this is how this constructor based injection, this constructor injection is getting used. So we are passing a constructor argument and our dependency, our software engineer's dependency, will get initialized by the same. So the next slide will cover a kind of high level, like what's actually happening behind the scene, behind this picture. Okay, so when we will go through this configuration file, we can see that inside engineer we are actually providing a constructor argument for the engineer as well. So constructor argument is actually what? This quotes. So constructor argument is actually referring to what? This quotes, and quotes will actually give us an object of motivational quote service. And what it actually does internally, that internally whenever Spring container is creating this object, at the same time whenever a Spring container is creating an object of software engineer, it will try to call this parameterized constructor with this implementation class of this quotes reference. Okay, that is motivational quotes. So now what will happen? This quote service, so quote service will internally refer to this motivational code service. So now this code service has got initialized with what? Motivational code service implementation class. And then whenever you create an object of software engineer, you can call the method whatever you want. So what we have done here actually, with the help of this like we have initialized our dependency code service using the parameterized constructor. Okay, which and this value, this argument has been passed using what? Using this configuration file. So according to this configuration only, Spring will take the implementation class and assign it accordingly, initialize it accordingly. Okay, so what's actually happening if we go through a similar Java code? So it's like creating an object of motivational code service and giving it as argument to software engineer while creating its object. Okay, so it's kind of similar. So similar things happening through this configuration file, and now the only difference is this Spring container is actually giving you the object. Okay, because now we will request a Spring container for this object, not like normal Java code where we would use new keyword. So if you wanna like relate this thing, so that's why I've written a similar kind of Java code. What's happening behind the picture. Okay, so that was all for this video. So if you have any doubts regarding this, then you can pin down those in the comment. I will surely try to answer all of those. Okay, so thank you for watching the video. Have a great day ahead.